Are we really ready? I don't think I get pictures like that.
Okay, so this is a Commissioners Court will meet in workshop session, June 21st, 1:30, Brazos County Administration Building, 200 South Texas Avenue. First item is call to order, and second is presentation and discussion of the following county departments and offices proposed budget request FY 2022-23, and I think Constable Lampo has some training he's doing, and he needs to get back to it, so I thought we'd take him first and then let him get back to training. Is he in here? Where's he at?
He's coming.
He's coming.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm in a class also, okay? We ready?
Yeah.
Is your microphone? Yes, go.
Yeah, microphone's on. Judge, we're here today to talk to you about salaries for our employees and stuff. That's what I'm here for. Also giving you a copy of changing our clerk 3 to an administrative assistant. JP, I changed it up some because Stephanie here in the building, she's in charge of lost and found, the wheelchair, everybody that comes to the front door, she's got a guide. She's the director of this building, so I changed it up just a little bit. Really what I'm here for is my employees. We have some good ones. All of us have good ones. We want to keep them. We're really hoping y'all will consider and looking into the salary increase that we have proposed to you to keep these people. Our duties every day are getting more and more. You're going to hear a lot of for this, probably not very much against this, and that's okay. But we have good people. We've got to make this where we can get more good people. It's getting harder. Like the other day, I got hollered at because the little guy on the corner with the sign wants money. I stopped and asked him to look around. There's 4 stores around you says now hiring. Could you get off the corner? Well, I don't want those kind of people. I want the good people that we have that are applying for our jobs and stuff. I'm not going to bore you with numbers and stuff, okay? Because you've got them in front of you. You've seen them. Correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have seen them, so you know what they are, what we're asking for. You're going to hear a lot more detail from some of the other folks here today. That's really all I got to say. I just please take into consideration so we can keep our people. Russ, you got that look. What's the matter?
I'm having a little bit of trouble. I've got the first sheet, but I'm looking for the backup sheet. I'll find it in a second. I'm sorry. I'm looking for that sheet.
They have it. They're not in order because due to.
I'm out of
who's
order.
gonna
You probably
speak.
got to go to the third item
Yeah.
on the list. I'm sorry. Yes. you're
So
good.
to cut to the chase, can you just,
Okay.
to cut to the chase, commissioners, judge, can you state what the job description should be telling us?
Ma'am?
Your job description, is this a modification?
It's a modification. Yes, ma'am.
And what is the starting salary? Is that what we're looking at here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Nina?
Yes, it's a title change from a clerk to an administrative assistant.
You got quieter with the mic.
Oh, sorry. And so they're looking at a title change due to duties.
So are we talking one person or 25
One person and, well,
each?
yes, ma'am, as well as other deputies and chiefs throughout today.
So the
This job-
administrative assistant person in precinct 2, starting salary would be, or present salary would be what?
And it's in fact, she's,
Okay.
the employee's already there at $51,896.
51,896.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Colley, you were asking about this, the clerk
Yes,
description. That should pertain just to 4 clerks,
okay.
correct? This is the 4 constable clerks.
So
I'm not sure what the JPs are doing. I'm just
So would-
talking about the constable clerks.
Would the 4 receive the same pay? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not
Okay.
sure, because like I said, Ms. Colley, I'm sorry, I don't have access to all that other, just mine. So
I
I can't answer
understand.
that truthfully.
I understand, but I want to compare apples to apples
Yes,
if
yes.
possible.
Yes, ma'am.
You're
So
talking about
thank you.
going from a 22.6 to a 22.10?
Yes, ma'am, you're correct.
Okay. I'm
That's
a little
4
confused
steps.
because where it says on our overall list that we have here, that shows a increase of $67,192.
It's been updated since then.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
$67,192 is the total for constable 2 increases.
Okay, that's total for increases. So this 8,633 here plus, okay,
Is there an additional position?
No.
because it shows a,
Do you have those?
It's everything above and beyond, 1 through,
There's another
it's
page
number
here.
1 through 9.
The bigger one? Or forward one? Here? Is it-
This is confusing.
is it
got the job description. Here it is. Here
There
it is.
it
It's
is.
further back. Okay. So we have the title change and increase.
So I'll find it?
Okay.
Not yet.
Got it. 63,267. This is 67.
Is that
Did you
it?
find lamppost yet?
Is, he would be 2. Okay. But he's talking about 1 person.
That's 3.
This is 3. This one's for
I just have the one person.
Here's 2. Go back one, Steve.
this one's for
But then this is
Beginning
3.
front.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
gotcha.
6, 7 people.
Got it?
Okay.
9 positions.
7,
There we
8,
go.
9.
There we go.
Position
Okay.
9's,
Yes.
And this, and
I apologize, Nina, but this is not making any sense. I'm looking at 9 positions.
Increases to 9 positions.
Are we talking about Constable Lampos, 9 positions?
Yes, ma'am, he started with the first one, which was number 1 on the list, and he's about to go into detail regarding.
So where does this new one fit in?
It's
or-
a new position, it's reflecting number 1 that's on the list. That's the
Okay.
title change.
Okay.
All
Job
right.
duties that will be added.
Okay,
yeah, the number 1 is the clerk 3 going to an administrative assistant. That's a
Okay.
title change with the pay increase also. And you have the copies here, and I'm not going to go over them line by line for what the
I
person does.
understand, and I'm not asking that, sir,
Okay,
but what we're looking at is a little confusing.
yeah.
request 2 through 5, you're talking about increases of 4 and 5 steps, and then 6, 7, and 8, 6 and 7, 3 steps, and position 8, 5 steps. Those are pretty big jumps.
On that, Ms. Berry, all of my deputies are not making the same thing. This is the increase that we had figured in to bring them up to this. I didn't try to balance them out. I don't think, we didn't try to balance, did you try to balance them out? I did.
Speak to the mic.
I did not try to balance them out. Did you?
The difficult thing is when we received these from y'all,
Speak
they,
to the mic.
when we received these sheets from the county, they had a projected increase in there as well. So initially, when we did a pay proposal, it was set on a standard guideline. We were looking at probably about an 8 to 9%. Those numbers somewhat got mixed up with the county looking at the 7.5% increase. So what we're looking at is just to try to figure out what that median is between what y'all have proposed and what we're looking at as far as salary increase. So all of our numbers on the sheets that y'all are going to get from Nina, they're going to be a little bit different because of the way the merit pool was distributed over the years, the way that the salaries were adjusted. We never got a clean slate where everybody said, okay, this is exactly where we want to be. So that's another thing that y'all need to take into consideration is where do you want law enforcement to be on the pay scale? That's where the real question truly lies. And we're going to do a little presentation a little bit later. I don't want to eat up Donald's time.
No, you're not even. So that's the difference in the deal. You know, my chief deputy, I'm not sure compared to theirs what they make and everything. They're the ones who run the office, who take care of the daily business as we go on. So really look at increasing that. And as our duty over at the courthouse has increased quite a bit also, we're seeing more over there. So there's days, I have 4 deputies over at the courthouse.
Am I correct in my assumption, this does not include a cost of living increase if we go with a extreme?
It does?
It
Okay,
does?
It does consider, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
May I?
Does it say that?
After when the court had
Please.
directed the $7.5
Oh, you just
Oops.
adjusted it.
I adjusted it. I sent it all to the departments to review, gave them the option to revise if needed. And if they didn't revise it, it went on to be presented today. So they had the option to
So we're
change it.
talking about 4 more steps and another 7.5 on top of that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but the cumulative information has all that,
Yes, sir.
that's included? Great, thank you.
Yes. I try to give the latest and greatest.
I appreciate it. Lots of moving targets.
4 and 5 steps and then they get a
Yeah, that's
Any
true.
other questions? I think?
Nope.
Sir? Sir?
I said, no, I don't have any questions, so I just had to know.
Like I said, you know, there, in here, there's the clerk, the chief deputy, and then the other deputies. And
Okay.
their salaries do vary because of merit over the years. The increases that the auditor and the budget officers put in there. Like I said, I'm here begging for those people.
Okay.
I'm begging for those people that we can get that up in for them to increase their pay so we can keep them. Because I have, and these guys will tell you too, we've got good people. And I want to keep the good people if we can. And that's going to be done by this. We see every day in the private sector some kind of security job this way or somewhere making double this or quite a bit more money than this. The way we're keeping our people is we're keeping them happy, we're keeping them busy, and the salary increase is not going to hurt either. That's all I really have to say. I didn't prepare anything great and whatever, because I'm here to fight for the people, and that's it, okay, for our people. And they're all the deputies and chief deputies in the county, sheriff's deputies. Please consider that for us, okay, so we can keep our people.
Constable,
Thank you, Constable.
Yes, ma'am.
the difference in steps is to make all the deputies making the same? I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
I didn't look at it that way.
Okay.
I
Well,
just,
I mean, it seems to me the result is the same, that no matter, I mean, the 3 steps, the 5 steps, the 4 steps, everyone ends up making 73,341.
okay. As you can tell, Ms. Berry, I told you, I didn't prepare that much for this, and I apologize to you.
Some making
But-
7, some making
Yes, yes,
8.5, some
Yes.
making 5.5 more, 7,000 more. I mean, before the cost of living raise.
Yes, ma'am.
So how do you justify the person with the longevity receiving the same as the new?
Very,
I'm just asking.
I understand, and it's a difficult one with the longevity, and then you have the merit in there. We have to do a lot of thinking, figuring, performance. Just, we answer those questions and then try to make a good decision on which one can get those or not get those.
But in your particular precinct department, you're saying that everyone, every officer, every constable from position 3 to 8 or 9 would make the same thing now.
Right now, no, ma'am. Right now,
Well,
they
well,
do.
with
With this,
action-
it would be, yes,
with
ma'am.
this action.
Yes, ma'am. Right now, no, but with this, yes, ma'am.
You took
Do the
nothing else into
deputies,
consideration.
are the deputies allowed to work off-duty projects, and do we send our car with them when they're doing that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, they are. And yes, they do.
Anything else for me? Because there's a lot more presentations going to be done. Let me get out of the way.
Right. Thank you.
Sorry, I seemed about halfway prepared, but I wasn't.
You're okay.
Okay,
You're
thank you.
okay.
Okay. Now we'll go back to the top. It's JP Precinct 1.
We haven't made any decisions on this one yet.
No.
We haven't made any decision on this.
Yes.
When do you think we have to do it?
Good afternoon, judges, commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I just want to go on record that I support the COLA raise for all county employees. We do have hard-working employees. We don't want to lose them. They're hard to replace, and they're even harder to train. We have a very difficult job. We work weekends 24/7 at times, get called out a lot, and it's hard training people. And I'd also ask that the constables and the judges' salaries be brought up comparable to other elected officials in the county. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Judge. Justice of Peace Precinct 2.
Good afternoon, Judge and Commissioners. In Precinct 2, we were asking for an additional person, an additional clerk position. Due to, we're on our 54th executive order due to COVID, and our caseload has increased some, but the complexity of the cases have increased. So the clerks are having to spend more hands-on time with each case that they touch. So an additional person would kind of relieve some of that burden off the clerks that are trying to handle people that are coming in the door and new cases that are filed, and to keep up with our e-filing. We're getting a lot of debt claim cases, a lot more evictions now, and it's just time consuming. I too support the COLA raise for all employees across the board because they do work hard for our county. The JPs have not received anything other than a COLA for several years. I've tried to do the research to see when's the last time that there was a raise for the JPs and constables. We're the lowest paid elected officials, and we have the most face time with the public on a daily basis. Most people file in our court and to come in there because we can turn the cases over quicker. We're mandated to hear an eviction within 21 days. Going into some of the higher courts, their caseload is much higher and more complex, and their cases can sit there for a couple of years, but we are trying to get ours turned over and turn our docket over. So we'd appreciate it if you could give us an extra position and look at our raises also. Thank you.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I've heard, and maybe I should ask this question earlier, do you support a COLA that would cause the tax rate to exceed the no new revenue tax rate?
I think we can do it within the budget. When they came to us a couple of years ago and asked for a decrease, I looked at my office and see that where we could cut, and y'all asked for a 10%. I think we actually did closer to a 12% decrease in our budget, our operating budget. But I think that it can be done within.
Okay. But you wouldn't be supportive of us voting for a tax rate that represents a increase in order to do this, or do you think
If
that
it's somewhat of
do you
an
think
increase,
it's worth
but
doing it?
not a significant increase, or whatever it took to maintain what we have here, keep our employees well paid, and keep them from being poached by other departments or other entities, we're going to need to do that. Because the lost time and revenue and trying to train people up to bring them up to par so we can keep the offices running costs more for the county, I think.
Yeah, I understand that, and I guess the reason I'm asking that question is because my orientation towards this budget has been that we be able to accomplish everything without asking taxpayers to pay additional revenue over what they did, and that's been kind of my objective, but I just wanted to see where everybody fit on whether we want to go to whether you would recommend to us that the tax rate be, not the tax rate, but the actual amount of revenue that we take in from property taxes be increased on existing properties.
I think that we've already got an increase in those funds right now. Personally, I've got 10% on one property where valuation went up and 14%
Yeah, that's
on another.
valuations, but then the tax rate that we would set would either be the no new revenue rate, which would levy the same amount of taxes on properties as existing properties as were last year, regardless of what the valuations say. Or we could go to the voter approved rate, which would allow us to increase without voter approval 3.5% additional revenue from existing properties in Brazos County. And I just, that's the real question for me is how we weigh that off.
Have we looked at that yet to see how much of an increase?
I've been talking about and wanting to put the budget out there in a way that we do take care of the needs that we have for retaining and recruiting positions. I've also advocated for we look at increasing those people who are below the $16.41. I believe there are about 40 employees there because inflation hits hardest on lower compensated people. But then beyond that, I really have advocated for going with the no new revenue rate because I'm reluctant when our taxpayers and property owners that are business operators as well are also having a increase in their cost of life and doing business here too. So my question is where are we offset wise if we were to accept all of these, the objective, all of these recommendations plus what's been 3-2 vote approved for the 7.5% COLA and 1% merit, but I just really wanted to get a feel from other elected officials whether or not they felt like this is a time where we needed to have an additional assessment of more revenue from taxpayers in order to accomplish all these things.
So
and I know that's our question, but I
yes,
just
so
wanted to
there's
get
no increase in the amount of taxes paid through valuation? Is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
That's
correct.
something different.
Yeah, the no new revenue rate would basically,
But I'm saying your taxes aren't going to go higher because your valuation went higher, correct?
right, the no new revenue rate would actually,
Should
I don't know.
compensate for that?
And the no new revenue rate, basically, on existing properties, it would have the same amount it would generate the same amount of revenue that we received last year. There would, of course, be additional value or additional revenue to the county for new property that came into existence over the last year. But anyway, that's like I said, I've been trying to. I need to balance that off between. I understand that we need to retain and we need to be able to recruit. But then I wonder is okay, how do we address that? And how do we address the cost of living that's gone up from Brazos County employees and offset that with what we're asking you know, property taxpayers to pay in order to do that or not. So,
Sounds like you have a hard job.
yes.
It is a hard
Yeah,
job.
and
That's really the question.
Yeah.
As another elected official, do you feel
It's-
like it's fair for the taxpayers to pay more net, for every taxpayer to pay more? Or should we try to balance that and maybe give possibly a little bit less cost of living increase? I mean, I'd love to give the 7.5, but if we're gonna have to raise taxes, I'm not for that. I'm not for raising taxes.
Okay.
May I say something? I've attended every meeting, every workshop. I need to ask the auditor to please, once again, explain to my colleagues that you have not received instructions to go over that ratio. And I'm concerned that two of my colleagues don't seem to understand that. I just want to be clear on it. Madam Auditor.
As everybody's aware, our population reached over 225,000 this year, and therefore the budget process falls to the auditor's office when Commissioners Court doesn't create and appoint a budget officer. This is a new procedure for us in that all of these workshops are posted individually. At this time, the Commissioners Court has approved to include a 7.5% cost of living increase in the proposed budget. We will not receive the certified appraised values until July 25th, and at that time, the tax assessor collector will have to calculate what our no new revenue rate is. For workshop purposes, I have included the exact, well, I did go ahead and review non-tax revenues. For example, interest is going to sink next year because our interest rate is going way down. So the earnings that we get for revenues. But tax revenue, I kept it exactly the same, and we have been going through and making adjustments to both revenues and expenditures as we go. We will not know for sure what the no new revenue rate is, nor new properties, until after the certified tax roll is in July.
So, with that said, I feel like the dead horse has been beaten enough that we all understand we're not proposing to increase taxes. We're simply making a proposed budget that we will decide at some point if we can accept the budget, that would be approve the budget, or not approve the budget and make adjustments. We're simply plugging in numbers and figures and percentages at this time to help us, the Commissioners Court, see at the end of the day, when we've got all the wish lists from our department heads, such as the judge here and constables, and we'll see where we are. At this time, we're not there.
Commissioner,
And
I
we
agree
haven't
with you.
approved anything. These are all proposed. And every year, we sat and we listened to the department heads tell us what it is that they need, what they like, how they could do their jobs more efficiently. This is the process. But I'm frustrated that we're stuck on increasing. We're not increasing. We're simply hearing. We plugged in some ideas, and at the end of the day, the five of us will decide how it will shake out. We have to do that to at least get a realistic figure. Now, Some would say those figures are too high or too low, but we don't know until we get all of the figures. And when we get all the figures, I may have oversimplified it, but this is the way it looks to me. We will make a decision as the Commissioners Court, which is we're mandated to do this. Katie, our auditor, is mandated with our instructions to keep us within the 3.5. And you know, for it to be said over and over that we're going to increase the taxes, I'm frustrated, and I will admit that is not the issue in my review. Now, I may be the only one, but I'm stating what I know and what I have done as a commissioner. We have never, as a commissioner's court in Brazos County, since the time I've served, just increased taxes. That's not it. We pay taxes too. It would be foolish for us to do that. And if that's the platform that some people want to run on, I'm not running. I retired December 31st. So, please listen clearly and carefully, because some people will lead you to think that we're absolutely crazy. I was born with a reasonable amount of good sense, and I'm going to hopefully die with that, even though I've had a stroke. Please listen closely, because names and things, terms are dropped, and they are not correct or fair to the rest of us that's trying to do the job correctly. And I'll be quiet with that.
Commissioner, the only thing I would like to add, there have been no instructions from the Commissioners Court to stay at any tax rate. And I look at providing information as my job. As a matter of fact, on the screen you can see I added some information with regards to arguably one-time expenditures or some of the accounts that we increased during preparation of the operation budget. The 142 million includes 10,750,000 for capital roads. Again, a choice of Commissioners Court.
Right.
Also includes, the best way to describe this is things or services that are generally one-time, such as new radios or new software. Not increases in software. So generally one-time things, but that don't qualify really as an asset.
Right.
And therefore it's not in capital, of 1.8 million. And then we went ahead and included in the total the increase requested for community support. Commissioners Court has not reviewed any of that, and those options for changes are still available.
Thank you. And personally, I appreciate our auditor being so smart about this. It could be very easy if we could follow the procedure. That's the bottom line.
Well, Commissioner, if you're
But
telling...
it's not an easy decision.
Commissioner, if you're telling me that it's inappropriate for me to ask
No,
the
I have not
questions
said
I
that,
have
Commissioner.
asked, then
I have not
I beg
said
to
that.
differ with you.
I would never say you're inappropriate,
Okay.
Commissioner. We're colleagues, and you have the same right that I have as a commissioner. However, I'd like to clarify what the issue seems to be becoming, that's all. I don't like confusion. You know, I'm really straight and simple. My yays are yays and my nays are nays. And if I don't understand, I'm going to ask a question, but I refuse to make a statement that's going to make it what I want it to be, even though it's not. That's not me. That's not my mode of operation, okay? But, no, you have the right, I have the right, we all have rights.
Well, forgive me for taking exception to that, but it just seems
Oh,
that
we
your
don't all have
commentary,
rights?
it seems to me that your commentary was oriented towards me
No.
inquiring questions from folks.
No, it's not.
Otherwise, I don't understand why the subject came up, but.
The subject
we do-
came up
we do have
because
We
of-
do have an agenda item that I've requested that we put on here for, after we have the discussions from presentations of county departments and offices. That's item number 3, that's an open discussion for the
Right.
2022-2023 proposed budget. And I think that that will suffice to address many of the questions that I have among the 5 of us.
And that's fine.
Okay, so
Thank you, Judge.
let me just clarify one thing. I think I heard you say, so if that rate, your house, your land, whatever, might not go up because of that no new revenue, but that's not an accurate statement, because if evaluations can be more than
Yes.
the average, and some can be less than the average, and when it's the total of the revenue, or the total of the valuation is where that no new revenue rate is calculated. And so when the total of the new is calculated, then they tell us what the rate is. If your house or land or business or whatever it is went up higher than that average, you still, even though the rate may be no new revenue rate,
The
you
taxes.
still might pay more taxes.
Yes, sir.
Or you
That's
might
right.
pay less. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
not, it's not as an individual home or business, it's not reflected on your individual taxes, that's on the total.
Yes.
I just
Exactly.
wanted to make sure.
It's
that's
not
clear.
specific to the property.
Right.
It's not specific to, the no new revenue rate is not specific to the property, but it is specific to the total amount of revenue that was raised on property taxes for existing properties during the year. So if well, to give you an example, if the average of valuations went up by 10% in Brazos County, but you had a property that went up by 20%, the no new revenue rate, you would actually be paying more than somebody that had a valuation that went up less than 10%.
Correct.
And that's the offset. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And we come up here to discuss these items, what we think would make our office run more efficiently and for the well-being of our employees. And it comes down to you figuring out what's what and sorting through it and see what we can get away with, and as far as establishing a budget. But we need to look deeper and look and see what we actually need. And if we're coming up here and we're begging for funds to keep our employees, to retain them, and make our office run more efficient, you have to take that into consideration. That's all I'm asking.
Yes.
I certainly do. I don't take any of the $5.9 million that have been brought up here in personnel requests for the year lightly in any way. I think that those are by the department heads and by the other elected officials. They are recommendations for what they think is in the best interest of the county overall, specific to their particular area of expertise and jurisdiction. So I appreciate all of that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
I've actually advocated that we have more orientation towards specific positions addressing those as opposed to a broad-based cost of living adjustment.
Okay, Constable Precinct 1.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you for
Thank
having me
you.
up here. I, like Donald Lampo said, probably more concerned for my employees than myself. I can tell you that we are getting to be in dire need of a new package, of higher raises, and getting our employees more money, because I can tell you right now that these local agencies that work with us here locally are about to do, or doing evaluations and about to put together packages, and they're gonna make even more money than what they are now, which concerns me for the sheriff as well, that he's needing personnel just like anybody else, and he's probably gonna take a hit because them guys are gonna wanna go to work for Bryan or College Station PD. And I can tell you right now, I make less than a Bryan PD patrol officer does. That's an officer without any rank, probably about $3,000 a year less. And they're about to get another significant raise, it looks like, and with the other things included in the package, certificate pay and so on. So it concerns me from the standpoint that it ain't gonna get better, it's gonna probably get worse if we don't act on some of this stuff and move forward. And I'm not here just backing my office or my employees, I'm concerned for the judges, the sheriff and the other constables as well. We've got to move on that. And you're right, we do use our patrol cars and stuff to work off duty. Well, so do they. And I can tell you right now, they charge more per hour off duty wise than we do. So it ain't getting better for us, and it's getting worse. But I'm all about I'm on board with the package that's been presented for the constables. I think it brings all of my employees dead even, except for my chief deputy, gives him a little bit more of a raise at his position. And of course, I want to bring Mary to administrative to that position. Anyway, any questions or for me or anything?
Constable, I was just asking, as a manager, if I put all of my staff across the board at exactly the same rate, regardless of their longevity or anything else with the organization, that's great for that younger person coming up that's on their first year. But if I've been there 10 years, I'm slightly concerned about that. How do you justify that?
Well, in my case, it's easy. All of my guys, probably my chief deputy's got 4 more years than I do in law enforcement. And Sean transferred laterally from the sheriff's office, as did Josh with 20-something years each.
I'm sorry. It's the policy of the county that we don't discuss individual employees by names.
Okay.
Except in executive session.
I apologize. I have employees that are all pretty much equal. I don't have them where
So it's
it's a
easy
2 or
for you
3
is
year
what you're
officer
saying,
opposed to a 20-year officer. Every one of my employees have 20-plus years of service,
And you
and a
think
couple
they're-
of them within the county system.
And you think they're all doing an equally good job? You
Absolutely.
don't have anyone that is a star performer as opposed to someone who's just doing a good job?
I have one that sticks out amongst the rest at times, but that really
And you
isn't
think
fair
it's-
either.
You think it's fair for that star performer to get the same as someone who's just doing the job?
They all perform at a high level, and I'm very proud of all of them, and I don't want to lose any of them, put it that way. That's my concern.
My only question is if they're not making the same off-duty as some other off-duty officers, need to increase the rates.
We are, and we're still going to be behind.
Well,
But I don't,
then that gives you a competitive advantage.
at the same time, I don't want to take advantage of somebody either. I feel like I'm trying to be fair. I don't want to, we got to do what's right.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank y'all.
Okay. We've had Constable Precinct 2, Precinct 3.
Let's start this out pretty important. Texas A&M's ahead 3-0. For those of y'all that keep up with Aggie baseball, we are now in the fourth.
Man, and here I didn't want any spoilers, and you just go ahead and.
Well,
I like the news.
that's what phones are for.
If the news had been the other way, I would have really been upset with you.
I'm Constable J.P. Ingram, and I am glad that y'all are going to hear us today, hopefully with an objective eye. It sounds like there's a little bit of apprehension in the group, so we're going to try to do a little quick presentation. I'm going to kick it off to Calder, and then we'll answer questions.
I'm Calder Lively. Do we need to go over this sheet first of what we're proposing and go over each position? Okay.
No, go ahead
No,
with your
no, your
PowerPoint.
presentation should
Oh, okay.
bring us up.
So before I knew about this, I was developing this equity proposal. And what this is in response to is what the others have said about salary compression. I came from College Station, an officer with 14 years. My seniority that was my training officer made $1.14 more an hour than I did. And I saw the results of salary compression there. And College Station and all the other neighboring agencies and most agencies in Texas went to a peace officer license-based salary scale. So my presentation's been modified a little bit for standards for the meetings. That's our office. And the clicker doesn't work. Oh. Okay, so that's our office. It's Constable Ingram and a chief deputy and 3 deputies. Next. This goes over my experience. Y'all can look at that in executive session. You have that if you can. Next. One deputy's years of experience. Next. My other deputy's years of experience. And then the third deputy's next. So in my office, which is the only office I'm speaking for, we have 115 years of combined law enforcement experience and over 28,000 hours of training recognized by the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. We're a resource to every agency in the area, federal, state, and local. Next. This is a current pay analysis. So Bryan, College Station PD, and the College Station Marshal's Office all pay their employees. They have a pay based on their law enforcement certificate. When you go through the academy, you get a basic certificate. After years of service and years of training, you get an intermediate certificate. More years of service, more training, and advanced certificate. Then you become a master certificate. And that's the highest you can go without promoting. You promote to sergeant, lieutenant, captain, assistant chief, chief, whatever you would want to do. Those numbers are the beginning level for Bryan, College Station PD, and their marshal's office. And then the Bryan Marshal's office. In trying to compare my office, which does civil and criminal, I compared myself to the sheriff's office civil division. So that's their lowest paid person to their highest paid person, their sergeant and lieutenant. If you average those out, in the blue column with average, my officer, I have one that's in advanced, and that officer makes $58,800 a year. If you take the average of what Bryan pays their advanced certificate officer, College Station, and the marshal's office, Bryan's and marshal's office really didn't have that. They just have a range of pay, and I didn't want to guess. And then someone with experience in the sheriff's civil division, the average pay for those officers is $68,000. That just highlights the disparity between the average and my agency. I have 2 deputies that are hold master certificates, and that is, you have what the other agencies pay, the average, and then what my deputy gets paid. A sergeant, my rank is chief deputy. I just put my pay there every year compared to the average, and then also as a lieutenant, comparing that. So that is the pay scale based on law enforcement certificates. Can
we stop right there? If
Yes.
you wouldn't mind, Calder, thank you. Okay, now does this include this is just straight salary, this doesn't include any comparative as far as benefits go?
No other benefits. If some agencies, if you speak Spanish, you get paid more.
No,
If
I'm
you're-
talking about health care
Okay.
and contribution to retirement plans and those types of things.
That is
Sick leave and
straight
all of that.
hourly pay.
Okay, this is just based on salaries.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
based on what I could find online and other sources. Any other questions on that slide?
No, thank you. I appreciate
Okay.
that.
Next. This asks common sense questions about value. At College Station, we lost a significant years of training and experience because other agencies paid more and they went other places. Frisco, Sugar Land, DPS. DPS only does criminal. They are one of the highest paid in the state, and local officers are leaving all to those other areas. There's not a week that goes by that my deputies aren't enticed to go to other agencies, and they're highly sought after. Next. Is it just facts? We are one of the lowest paid. We don't just do civil work, we do criminal. If we catch it, we clean it, whether it's thieves, people in stolen cars. We helped with a significant narcotic arrest where members of the Latin Kings were removed from the streets, and a very big danger was removed from our community. We help every agency. There's times when it's busier in Bryan and College Station. We mainly help College Station with vehicle crashes, with a lot of their very dangerous calls. We're there. We'll assume calls. We'll help out on crashes when we can. We hand out accident exchange information sheets, trying to free up their manpower when it's needed. Next. So it's already been said before today. I've worked for an agency that had that brain drain, and it is horrible. I can't, yes, my deputies can work off-duty jobs, but I should be able to pay them a livable comparative wage without having to work extra. They're already missing time from their families from over 80 hours. The job is getting more dangerous. It's nice to work off-duty, but you shouldn't have to in order to make ends meet. I want to retain my people. Next, our people. So this is a long-term solution. That is what I'm asking for. This is before gasoline got up to over $5 a gallon and all the problems that we're facing now. To be equitable, I'm sure every agency in this room is going to want to mirror a similar pay scale. I haven't talked to any of them, but that's what most law enforcement agencies are going to, and that is propose what I would like to work toward. And I can speak to my lowest person making as much as my highest person. It goes back to that salary compression. And my senior guys know what that deputy with maybe half the experience has to offer, and they're willing to bring that person up to make a livable wage. Because
Okay, so this, if you'll go back a little bit, nope, go back to the ones that was the solution, yeah. Okay, where it says solution, there you go. Okay, so this BCC for the Constable's Office Precinct 3, that's reflected in the requests, the 6 requests that you have here?
It's as close as it can be.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is, y'all brought up some valid questions earlier. You start talking about jumping in steps. What we're trying to do is eliminate those steps and fall more in line to what is traditional in our profession. In our profession, traditionally, you see the levels broken down between basic, intermediate, advanced. And so what we're trying to do long-term is trying to get that implemented to where law enforcement gets away from these quote-unquote steps and falls more in line to folks will know based on their certificate level where they're going to stand in an organization. Y'all are already seeing some of that disparity because our numbers are all very different.
But you're chief deputy on this request here. It appears to me you're asking to go to 83,000.
That's correct. That's a long-term deal. That's not a short-term. That's a long-term solution.
Yeah, but we're going to 73,000 on all the deputy positions.
Well, like I said, those were all factored in based on a COLA number. Y'all are going to factor in what the real number is going to be. We're just making a presentation today.
Gotcha.
That's where the discussion truly lies.
Thank you.
And I think there were a couple of questions that I wanted to touch base on. Longevity pay definitely is something that is not discussed, but it is factored in. People that work with the county longer periods of time, they make more longevity pay. So there is going to be some separation between a long-term county employee and a short-term county employee just based on longevity pay. Because not all constables make the same. I'm the least out of them because I've been in the county the least. So there is a longevity issue as well. Last thing I want to touch base with y'all is, there's two things. As we're dealing through these difficult times, I truly understand that y'all are challenged. I think that the real discussion